Good morning, everybody. I welcome to this session on greening the European Union and apprenticeships in the renewable energy sector. I am Anna Barbieri. I work in the European Commission in DG Employment, and I'm in charge of Erasmus Plus and the topic of apprenticeships, which we will be touching upon today. Together with my colleagues from DG Employment and Ecoris colleagues, our contractor, we are very, very excited to have you with us. We will explore how apprenticeships can have a strong positive impact for the green economy and in particular for the sectors of renewable energy. So we can go to the next slide, because I would like to start with some housekeeping rules. So please mute yourself and keep your camera turned off during the meeting. We want to have an interactive meeting, so please ask your questions in the chat or leave comments, and then there will be moments during the webinar where we will reply to your questions. I remind you that the event is being recorded, and if you experience any technical issues, there is a mailbox that you can contact. So when looking at the agenda on the next slide, we see that you probably have noticed we have quite some experts in the topic of renewable energy and green transition. I'm very, very excited to speak to them and have them presenting some of their practices that can be useful for the participants here today. We really want, as I said, the event to be interactive, so we count on you as well for giving comments and providing your questions. The next slide, please. So the first person that I would like to welcome is our Deputy Head of Unit, Ana Carrero, who is the Deputy Head of Unit for Vocational Education and Training in DG Employment in the European Commission. She will set the scene for this event, and she will give us some information also on the policies of the European Commission in the field of renewable energy and green transition. Anna, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Anna, and good morning, everyone. Yes, I would like to say just a few words to explain how this topic fits in the overall Commission agenda. So it is really extremely relevant because the renewable energy sector in the EU is a key economic sector. In 2023, only employed around 1.5 million people, and it also provides growing employment opportunities while accelerating the energy transition. So our goal is to achieve at least 42.5% of the energy mix deriving from renewable energy by 2030, which is very ambitious. But it is essential to reduce carbon emissions and promoting energy independence in Europe. So for this purpose, we have put in place several initiatives as Commission. I would like to mention some that are particularly relevant in view of the webinar. For instance, the Green Deal industrial plans to enhance competitiveness and net zero industry. It also has a skills pillar. And as a result, the Commission is establishing net zero industry academies to roll out upskilling and reskilling programs in strategic industries such as hydrogen, solar, and wind technologies. The Repower EU program to boost energy saving, diversifying energy supplies, and promoting the production of clean energy. And as you may be aware, the President von der Leyen has kept this topic very high in her political guidelines for the next mandate. She has already announced a clean industrial deal to decarbonize and bring down energy prices. So we will continue working on this. But of course, achieving these goals requires a skilled workforce trained to work in the renewable energy sector. So various actions from the skills agenda and from other initiatives have been supporting these objectives. For instance, some of the partnerships under the Pact for Skills, for instance, the Renewable Energy Skills Partnerships, to help stakeholders collaborate and share good practices to drive this green transition. Some of the Erasmus Plus Centers of Vocational Excellence focus on clean and renewable energy. Significant EU funding through the Recovery and Resilience Facility and the European Social Fund, notably. Or the working group on vocational education and training and the green transition, who is also doing a great job to promote good practices in this area, and that is why we have invited them to join us today. Indeed, they have developed a new edition very recently of their compendium of inspiring practices in greening VET, with more than 70 examples showing how vocational education and training can make a unique contribution to the green transition, and I encourage you all to check it out. So these type of initiatives are very much needed because the renewable energy industry also faces skills and labor shortages, as highlighted by the Action Plan on Labor and Skills Shortages launched by the Commission earlier this year. And many of these shortage occupations correspond to VET professions, so their quality apprenticeships can play a very important role as they provide hands-on training and practical knowledge needed to manage green technologies. So with this webinar, we will dive deep into the renewable energy sector and how it can be supported by apprenticeships. And I finish with this because the interesting part will start now, and I wish you a very interesting and fruitful webinar. So back to you, Anna.
Thank you very much, Anna. Indeed, it was very, very important what you said, because we want to underline that the attention on the topic of renewable energy and the green transition is very, very high on the agenda of the European Commission. So Anna has mentioned a few of the initiatives that we have ongoing, and we will speak about some of them also in the next parts of the event. So bear with us also until the end, because also in the end we will have some more explanations. One thing that I would like to mention also is that this webinar, you see the icon on the left of the screen, is organized in the framework of the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, which is an important initiative of the European Commission, existing since 2013, more than 10 years, and this initiative wants to promote apprenticeships in terms of their quality, their image, the offer of apprenticeships, and also the opportunities of learning mobility for the apprentices themselves. So linking to what Anna Carrero was saying, thank you very much again to her, and we pass to the next part of the meeting. So the next slide, thank you. So we will have a thematic introduction by Adam Tsakalidis that I welcome from CEDEFOP. He will be giving us some introductions to the topic and to the needs that we see in the European Union. So welcome with us, Adam. You can put on your camera. And I would like to remind that Adam is our CEDEFOP expert in online job advertisements and is working since recently in CEDEFOP in the Skills Intelligence and Foresight team. Adam, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna, both for the invitation and the introduction. So, yes, my name is Adam Tsakalidis. I'm an expert in quantitative research and data analysis at CEDEFOP. For those of you who might not know CEDEFOP, it is a European agency for vocational education and training and skills, and we work closely with the European Commission in Brussels, other agencies, social partners, civil society, and the vocational education and training sector. And we provide evidence that supports the implementation of VET and skills policies. Now, the analysis that I will present feeds into the work of our Skills Intelligence and Foresight team, of which I'm a member. And in particular, I will be presenting insights from from our big data analysis on the green transition, as covered in our recent policy brief on tracking the green transition in the labor market. There will be links throughout the presentation, with a particular focus on the renewable energy sector. So let's start with the first slide. Achieving the green transition calls for changes in the skill profiles needed in the labor market. By shifting our economy and society towards a carbon-free and greener direction, new skill needs are emerging, which require both workers as well as learners upskilling or reskilling. And this is evidence from our work at CEDEFOP on skills and jobs for the green transition. Meeting the European Green Deal goals already calls for such changes. So the next slide. Great. So we therefore need ways to monitor the green transition for the renewable energy sector and beyond, both in space, geographically, as well as across time, through data that will help us better shape reskilling or upskilling, which is only part of our work in skills intelligence. Now, part of this can come from data indicators that measure the importance of the human capital. Unfortunately, though, these are relatively scarce. So in this presentation, I will be sharing insights from our work at CEDEFOP with respect to the usage of data both from official taxonomies, namely ESCO in the first part, as well as our large-scale collection of online job vacancies in order to study the effects of the green transition in the labor market with a particular focus on the renewable energy sector. Just to say that this analysis is part of our broader work focusing on skills intelligence. And note here that there will be a poll at the end, so you are invited to follow up with the presentation and see how you can answer the question at the end. So let's start with the first part. The first part of this presentation focuses on how we leveraged official and expert-labeled taxonomies for studying potential effects of the green transition on the labor market. ESCO is the European multilingual classification of skills, competences, and occupations, and you can think of it as a taxonomy or a dictionary that describes and classifies professional occupations and skills that are relevant to the EU labor market, education, and training. For example, this is the definition of solar energy technicians as provided by ESCO. They install and maintain systems that collect solar energy. They prepare the necessary fixtures, often on roofs, etc. Now, if we click on next, alongside this definition, you will see that ESCO provides us also with a list of essential and optional skills that are required in order for someone to work as a solar energy technician. And you can see them being split here into skills and competences and knowledge concepts. Now, in our work, we were interested in inspecting which other professions can become a solar energy technician. To approach this, we found the most similar occupations to solar energy technicians with respect to their required skills as provided by ESCO. So let's see some examples, which include hydropower technician or building electrician. So these occupations already require a large portion of solar energy technicians' required skills that are listed by ESCO. This approach helps us to identify candidate cases of potential job transitions based on their skill overlaps in order to then focus on, firstly, a more in-depth and qualitative analysis of whether such a transition is indeed feasible and likely to occur, because simply a raw number of the skills that overlap between occupations does not imply that. And secondly, what sort of reskilling would be needed through VET, for example, in order for someone who is currently, say, a building electrician to become a solar energy technician. Now let's move to the next slide, please. Such analysis now serves the purpose of identifying potential cases for the green transition with applications to the renewable energy sector and beyond. And we are happy to share with you that more details on this method will be presented in an upcoming practical guide on greening VET that CEDEFOP has jointly developed with UNESCO UNEVOC. However, this analysis lacks the temporal and spatial component. For example, we cannot identify trends in the renewable energy sector with respect to the labor market needs in terms of skill requirements. This is where online job advertisements, or as I will be calling them throughout this presentation, OJAs, come into play to serve as an additional or supplementary information source. So we at CEDEFOP have joined forces with Eurostat in creating a large-scale web intelligence hub OJA database that contains hundreds of millions of such vacancies, including all of the EU 27 countries. These OJAs have been cleaned, processed, and classified with respect to several attributes, such as the region of employment, the geographical region of employment, the ISCO code of the advertised occupation, the ESCO skills that we could identify within the vacancy, etc. This resulting rich resource at the end can help us to identify how the green transition affects the labor market, which I will be presenting in the rest of this presentation. And it's important again to highlight here that there are continuous developments in the analysis that will follow. So let's start. So there is a hypothesis in our analysis. We did not define green occupations or green sectors per se in this presentation. We instead define green skills, or to put it better, skills that are needed for the green transition, but I will be calling them green skills for because it's shorter. And these green skills can then be used to define how much green a particular occupation or sector is. Now, here we see some examples of green skill taxonomies, which have been independently created by ESCO and CEDEFOP, and you can see some of them in this word cloud. Now, by utilizing this and trying to find whether they are present in an online job vacancy or not, we provide two definitions for each occupation, sector, or region in our analysis. The first one, exactly in the next click, great. The first one is called green pervasiveness. This measures the proportion, that's the percentage of online job advertisements in a particular sector, occupation, or region that require at least one green skill. The second one is called greenness and defines the proportion of skills that are green in a particular occupation or sector. Can you hear me? I think I was muted.
Now we can hear you again. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, great. So let's move to the next slide, which requires a play button. And if you click on play, you will see how the green pervasiveness scores varied across different sectors between the years 2019 and 22 inclusive. What is notable here is that the electricity, gas, steam, and air conditioning supply sector has consistently the highest portion of online vacancies that contain green skills throughout these 4 years. So let's move to the next slide, where we will see that overall, you can see, oops, in the previous, exactly, great. Overall, there was an increase from 3% to 5% between these 4 years in the green pervasiveness for the average sector, suggesting overall an upward trend on the demand of green skills across sectors. And you can see that the electricity, gas, steam, and air conditioning supply has an average of 17% on this metric. Now, in the next chart, we can focus on particular, instead of sectors, focus on particular occupations or even within particular countries. One such example is the example of the technical and medical sales professional roles in Germany, where we find that in our database, half of the advertised positions that fall under this categorization require a renewable energy relevant job profile, namely a solar energy sales consultant or a renewable energy consultant. Such information can shed light into the demand side of the labor market. And this piece of information can enrich skills intelligence more broadly, drawing from other sources, however, too. We can inform decisions on VET, including apprenticeships, in terms of program design and delivery or even career counseling. Now, in the next slide, you will also see some how big data from online vacancies can also help us to explore regional patterns and trends. For example, the figures here showcase the green pervasiveness and greenness down at a regional level, and I believe that these nuts too. Such information can offer an additional information source, supplementary information source to authorities and stakeholders to monitor the green transition as expressed in the labor market in almost real time. And on the next map, on the very last map, on the very right here, you can see the locations of employment in our database that require advertisements that require the skill install solar water heater. And you can see some pattern emerging around France, near Belgium, as well as in Malta. And actually, people in citizens of Brussels had the opportunity to use the public purse for installing solar water heaters, whereas citizens of Malta had also access to grants for the same purpose, as well as people in France could also leverage the public purse for purchasing solar heaters. So in the final slide, just to sum up, there were two strands of analysis in this presentation. The first was how we can find cases of potential job transitions that could be related to the renewable energy sector or more broader in the green transition. And the second part was related to how we can perform temporal and spatial monitoring of the green transition with respect to the labor market by using big data. And of course, the applications on VET, including the apprenticeships. Now, I want to finish off with a big caution remark on the limitations of the big data analysis. There are several limitations, namely the representativeness or bias, so not all occupations are equally likely to be represented in an online vacancy. Since we are using machine learning and natural language processing approaches to classify, the occupation, the region, the skills, etc., there is always some error. So there are continuous developments on that. And finally, just by their nature, the online job advertisements cover only the demand side of the things. So it's very important to incorporate them into a broader work under the concept of skills intelligence. So the last one slide is just to thank you very much and say I'm very happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Adam. So indeed, the participants can put their questions in the chat. We would launch a poll, maybe? Sorry, colleagues.
It's already displayed, I think.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Very good. I don't see it myself, but Adam, it's more important that you see it, so I leave you still the floor for a few comments on this.
A few comments, Anna, on the poll itself.
Yeah, if you want to give then the reply, the final reply.
Okay, so the question was whether what was the average percentage of job advertisements with green skills in the electricity, gas, steam, and air conditioning supply in the EU 27 during 2019 and 22 inclusive? And the correct answer was 17%. And wow, 60% got it right. So that's a detail. Well done.
Thanks a lot, Adam, and thank you to those who participated in the poll, and congratulations indeed also from me to those who got it right. Adam, thank you indeed. Your presentation was a very, very useful introduction to the topic of today, and we will go further into details with the speakers and the panelists that are coming after you. Indeed, what you were presenting also shows a little bit the complexity of the work of CEDEFOP and the challenges that need to be addressed for providing findings and information on how the online vacancies are evolving. It was also very interesting, this sector of the electricity, gas and steam, the percentage that we see there, because this is also very much linked to the topic of today and to the need of ensuring that we transform our energy sector and we go into more and more into renewable energies. So thank you very much, Adam. And now I would like to go to the second part of our event, and I will ask the panelists to put on their cameras. while I will introduce them and thanking them for being with us. So we have today with us Shima Suraki, who is the advisor for international cooperation at Vestland County Council in Norway, where she works in the Department of Business Development, Regional Planning and Innovation. She has been project advisor on various European projects, and today she will present one of those funded by Erasmus+. We have with us Kasia Liko, the coordinator for the National Apprenticeships program at Kerry Education and Training Board in Ireland. She is responsible for overseeing the development and the delivery of the apprenticeships program for wind turbine maintenance technician that she will present to us. She works closely with businesses to design and deliver training and skills development programs, which is something that might be very interesting for the audience that we hear and the participants that we have here today. Then we have with us Amber Riedel, the national co-lead and founder of Climate Jobs in Germany, which is cooperating with manufacturers and energy providers. Amber started as a climate advocacy, and then she dealt with the topic of heat pumps, and since then she has been working in the renewable energy sector. Then our last panelist, Tuscany Bell, is a policy officer for the energy sector at the European Federation of Public Service Union. Before being a policy officer at EPSU, she was responsible for social services and youth policies. I remind you to continue to put your question in the chat, and if it's relevant, maybe mention for which of the speakers you are addressing your question. And now I would like to introduce the first speaker, and before giving her the floor, I would like to explain something that also Anna Carrero has mentioned. We have an initiative under Erasmus+, which is called Centers of Vocational Excellence, or COVs, as we call them. And these centers are, their aim is to create and provide high-quality skills for the labor market, both for young people and for adults, and they do so by bringing together comprehensive partnerships that are strongly linked between the world of work and the world of education and training, but also with regional and local needs and opportunities of the territory. In a nutshell, COVs are about fostering excellence in VET and bringing forward innovation. And now I will turn to Shima, who is involved and will present to us one COV project, H2COV, which is covering the hydrogen economy. Could you, Shima, please tell us more about this project?
Yes, sure. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar today. As mentioned, my name is Shima Suraki, and I'm an project advisor at Vestland County Council in Norway. And today I'll be sharing insights into a very interesting project, which stands like H2COV, stands for Hydrogen Centers of Vocational Excellence. This project is co-funded by the European Union, and it's all about preparing a skilled workforce for the emerging hydrogen economy. And I am excited to walk you through our approach and impact. Yes, that's the right slide now. So as we all know, Europe is currently facing an energy crisis, and which it was highlighted in the IEA's World Energy Outlook in 2022. And to address this, Europe needs to shift to a more carbon neutral energy sources, which supported by policies like the Green Deal, the emission reduction goals, and the Repower EU plan. And hydrogen has significant potential for shift toward renewables. And what do we do in COVE? Like, we know that the hydrogen economy is rapidly growing, but a significant skills gap could slow this process. So H2Cove addresses this by building a network of regional centers of vocational excellences, or COVES, and these centers are designed to equip students with practical and job-ready skills, which are tailored to the hydrogen sector. Central to our approach is work-based learning, which ensures students are not just learning in the classroom, but also gaining hands-on experience in real-world settings. Next slide, please. Who are we? Our project is it's like a truly collaborative project. We are 19 partners from 5 key regions: Westland County in Norway, where I sit in, Northern Netherlands, Tyrol in Austria, Estonia, and the Precarpathian region in Ukraine. So each of these regions brings their unique expertise and challenges to the table. For instance, Westland County is a leader in maritime hydrogen fuels, while the Northern Netherlands has a Hydrogen Valley project, which focuses on a complete green hydrogen chain. These diverse contributions strengthens like the whole project and the project's overall impact. Next slide, please. So while writing the application for this project, we did like a needs analysis for private and the educational sectors. So the industry and the education sectors face two sides of the same coin, I can say. So what does the education system need, and what does the private sector need in this hydrogen economy? The education system, they need to just keep up with the industry needs. They need to update their programs. They need to keep their teachers up to date. And they need to be able to offer students apprenticeship placements. And this can only be done by close collaboration with the industry partners, who should also be more open about their future plans and about their skills requirements. So more work-based learning is needed, and it's a need for like a greater internationalization also. There's a need for like modern and updated courses and learning materials. And there is a need for a better collaboration with local industry. This is what we do know that is needed between our private sector and education sector. Next slide, please. So our skills and needs analysis reveals some critical roles in the hydrogen sector. For example, hydrogen production technicians, maintenance technician for storage facilities, systems operators for fueling stations. And these are all technical expertise. And in addition to this technical expertise, the industry requires workers who understands the safety protocols, who understands like environmental compliance, who understands teamwork. So our goal in H2Cove is to ensure that vocational training align with these industry demands. So the hydrogen economy that requires these specialized interdisciplinary skills that can only be effectively developed through practical and work-based training. So we try, our goal is, and we try to bridge the skills gap by aligning educational programs with industry needs and by preparing the students for employment. So this approach, we think that can bridge the gap between education and employment. Next slide, please. So what do we think about apprenticeship in the whole project? It's a 4-year project that started in March 2024, and it's going to be finished in 2029. But we think that we can empower the future workforce through the apprenticeship that we have in H2 Cove. We believe that through the apprenticeship that we offer in our project, we can bridge education and industry. Students can have like a seamless transition from classroom learning to hands-on work. We can build essential skills. It can be both technical and soft skills that are developed to match the demands of the hydrogen economy. We can drive innovation and growth by fostering the skilled workforce, and we can also prepare leaders. H2 Cove is shaping the next generation of hydrogen professionals that we believe that will lead the industry into the future. And looking ahead, if we just look ahead, we think that we are going to it's just a starting phase for our projects, the first year. So we think that we will expand our network of coves to reach more students and industries. And we want to strengthen the partnership between educational institutions and hydrogen enterprises to have more apprenticeship and internship programs to ensure that Europe remains at the forefront of the hydrogen economy. And the last slide. I want to conclude to say that H2 Cove project is not just about training, it's about transforming education and industry to build a sustainable and skilled workforce for the future. Thank you for listening to me, and this is our website, h2cove.eu, and my email address if you want to contact or have questions or anything.
Thank you very much, Shima. It was very, very interesting, and thank you for showing concretely our apprenticeships, vocational education and training, and also a topic that is very close to my heart. The Erasmus Plus Centers of Vocational Excellence are contributing to a very trendy sector, the hydrogen sector. So I would also like to say in follow-up to your presentation that apprenticeships have been there for hundreds of years, but it's very good to see that they are also adapting and tailored and responding to modern needs of our labor market and society. So your presentation was very, very interesting for those that are working in the attractiveness of apprenticeships and that. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would ask now also, before I go to the next speaker, to Adam Tsakalidis from CEDEFOP. There are quite some questions for you in the chat. If you could, for time reasons, reply to them in the chat,
Yes.
Because I see that, as I mentioned, that your presentation was also going to be very useful.
I've started
you,
doing
Adam.
that, so thank you for raising that, Anna. Thank you.
And now I move to the next panelist. So I ask Kasia to put on her video, please. And she will introduce, as I said in the beginning, the Turbine Technician Apprenticeship Program that the Kerry College has developed. Please, Kasia, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Anna, and the organizers for the invitation and this fantastic opportunity to present at today's webinar. I'm excited to introduce the Wind Turbine Maintenance Technician Apprenticeship, which is a very unique program offered by Kerry Education and Training Board in County Kerry in Ireland. Perfect. We can move to the next slide. Slide 2. Thank you. So just to give you a little bit of background, Kerry Education and Training Board, also known as KERRY-TB, is the statutory provider of education and training services in County Kerry. So we have 38 schools and centres providing primary, post-primary education and further education and training, including apprenticeships and outdoor education. Our College of Further Education and Training offers routes to employment, further study, third level, and apprenticeships. Across our 5 main campuses and hubs, we offer an impressive 180 full-time programs and apprenticeships, and they all ranging from level 3 up to level 6. Okay, we can move to the next one. Thank you. This is just a graphic representation of where we are positioned within the national framework of qualification in Ireland. So as you can see, we, and as mentioned before, we offer courses and programs from level 3 up to level 6. Okay, can we move on to the next one? Perfect. Now for the purposes of today's webinar, and we can actually skip to the next one. Thank you. So I would like to introduce and focus on the wind turbine maintenance technician apprenticeship. Kerry ETB is the only provider for this apprenticeship in Ireland, and the program was developed in collaboration with industry experts to meet the needs of the growing Irish renewable sector. The development of this apprenticeship has created a pathway for school leavers and those who don't have any prior experience or qualifications. Our first ever cohort of wind turbine apprentices started in November 2022, and they will be graduating in November next year. And overall, we now have 3 groups of apprentices at various stages of their apprenticeship program. Okay, we can move to the next one. So the apprenticeship spans 3 years and leads to advanced certificate in industrial wind turbine engineering. It's structured in 7 stages, 4 off the job and 3 on the job. And we can move to the next slide. Perfect, thank you. What's particularly valuable is that around 60% of the training takes place on the job, where apprentices work closely and directly with their employers. So this hands-on experience and approach is crucial for building their practical skills needed for a successful career in the wind energy sector. Okay, we can move to the next one. Just briefly on the eligibility criteria. So for a candidate to be eligible for this apprenticeship, the person must be employed by a SOLAS approved employer. And just for clarification, SOLAS is the state agency who is responsible for overseeing the further education and training in Ireland. So candidates must hold a level 4 major award, or if applying from outside of Ireland, a minimum of 5 passes at a level 3 on the European framework of qualifications. We also require maths at level 3 on the national framework of qualifications. For those who are already working in the industry, a minimum of 3 years of relevant experience in wind turbine maintenance or similar field is required. And all candidates must also complete and pass the suitability tests. Okay, we can move on to the next one. So there are 2 routes to enter this apprenticeship. The first, which is the recommended one, is to directly approach employers and secure employment with them. Alternatively, candidates can apply to KRTB, where they undergo an interview with us, and following that, their CV is made available to the employers hiring apprentices. And on to the next one. Okay, this slide just showcases our industry partners and the employers who we collaborate with to deliver this apprenticeship program. And these partners, employers, they were also part of the development of this apprenticeship. Okay, and on to the next slide. So in my presentation, I had included a video that highlights all the benefits of the program. and I believe that the slides will be shared as circulated after the webinar. So I strongly encourage everyone to watch it, because it is a very exciting and interesting video, and it only takes 4 minutes of your time. And on to the final one. Here, I just, if someone would like to find out more about the apprenticeship or has any questions after the webinar, I've included the link to the Wind Turbine Apprenticeship website and also my contact details. So please feel free to email me with any questions and inquiries. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Kasia, for your presentation. I think that this information, concrete and hands-on on how a program on apprenticeships in one of the sectors like the wind turbines can be set up, is very, very relevant for the participants today. Anna Carrero had mentioned that there are participants from the working group for VET and the green transition that are here with us today. I would also say, and I encourage you, Kasia, also to explore our EAfA community for green skills. It is for green and digital skills, but in this case, it would also be very relevant for you and for others. We will put some more information in the chat also on this strand of work of the European Alliance for Apprenticeships. And I can confirm that the video that Kasia has mentioned is very, very inspiring. So when you will receive the slides, when they will be put also on the website of the Alliance, I really invite you to go and look, because it is very, very useful. Thank you again, Kasia. And then I would move to the next speaker, to Amber Riddle. And thank you very much, Amber, to be with us. And I announced in the beginning that you are from Climate Jobs. And please, the floor is yours to tell us all about the work that you are doing, and also interesting how you are working with people that are changing their careers, the career changers. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having me. I can explain it quite well with the slides so that it goes also more quickly. If you continue one more slide. When I talk about the word career changers, here I mean actually adults. So I don't just mean people changing from one industry to another. I'm really using it as a term to differentiate, let's say, between people that are just starting their career path and that have a really well-established training and career path from the education system, and then people that are switching later on. Sometimes they're called lateral entrants. We call them career changers. And the idea is to focus more specifically on this group of people and to create like a standardized offering that helps them really move from being, let's say, helpers or workers into being on a career path. So what we see in Germany is, if I take one minute more on the first slide to do the overview, what we see is like we will need a lot more people entering the space in the coming years. And what we look at is the difference between, let's say, professional technicians, that's people that have completed their standardized training. In the two areas that we're looking at, we're looking along the area of HVAC, so how to manage the transition from gas and oil to heat pumps or more renewable types of heating systems, and also solar technology, how to increase the amount of solar on roofs. And that's in Germany coming from, when we talk about professional technicians, two types of two protected professions. One is electrical engineers, and the other is HVAC technicians. But in order to meet this demand, we will have to have people come in that have different skill sets to support the fully trained technicians to execute the tasks. What we see is that when students are entering vocational education and trades, there's a very strong offering in Germany, especially with the apprenticeship program. It's kind of world famous, 3.5 years of training that's both in the classroom and on the job site, but there's not some sort of similar training for people that want to enter the same areas as adults. So after sort of the work that we did looking at that space, we saw, okay, the best that we're seeing is sort of like a boot camp from industry players, which is, I would say, like a longer onboarding, but nothing really streamlined or standardized, and not really comparable to the same program that you would have if you did that as your first career path. Okay, thanks. It goes quicker now, but perfect. So as I said, the German vocational training system is already quite famous, but it's not something that's extending beyond this target group of students. So students are paid while they're training, they have an easy transition to employment. But let's say even in this even in the space for students or like younger students, we already see there's some things that are starting to become more difficult in the system compared to how it used to be. So vocational training for students is always depending very much of having industry be able to take the students into their teams and train them on site. And there's so many changes right now to the market in these two fields that we're looking at, this HVAC field and also for solar technicians. For example, especially in the field of HVAC, the companies are quite small. They're historically having around 10 employees, and most of them are quite old. So they'll be retiring, like a third of that staff will be retiring in the next 10 years. And here at the same time, we see the market changing so that there's a lot bigger players coming into the market. We call them like green tech players. So instead of this small structure of smaller installing firms that we've always had that were responsible for the training, we now have these larger companies that are sort of aggregating in the market and aren't investing as much in this type of training. So these are the challenges that we're facing in the moment. Again, just to briefly run over, when I say career changers, who that is. It's a term that we use very often for a specific target group. And in our case, it's people that are 25 years or older and that are changing jobs. And we're looking at these changers especially because they qualify for subsidized retraining routes, and think that this is where we're going to easily find the most people that would be best suited to a new path. Again. Okay, thank you. And if we look at these, if we look at here, this is the classic training path, what it looks like, at least in Germany. At the top of the slide, you see when you're a student or you're having this classic path, you started as an apprentice, then you become certified as a technician, and you can extend as a specialist or a master of your trade. If you start as a career changer, you often stick in this beginning phase as a helper. So that means even though you're doing on-the-job training and even though you're working in that space, you're not actually getting the formal qualifications that you need in order to progress and to do, let's say, restricted tasks or to move into a higher salary class. And that's why our goal with OHKW Klimajobs is to make sure that people that are coming into this space at a later age really have a progression to become practitioners and then technicians as well. And sort of what does that look like? Between, like, there's I would say, a difference not just in the topic of apprenticeships between these two different categories or target groups, let's say the classic students and the career changers. especially when you look at people 25 years and older and those sort of 3 target groups that I showed earlier. You see, especially in this target group, people really have a need to be working and earning money while they're learning. And so we've broken down these protected professions in Germany. Every profession is protected into a modular training program so that career changers can go through the same training and apprenticeship structure as, let's say, the classic student, but to do it over time. So it's become modularized in 6, usually 4 to 6 modules, in this case 6. And in order that they can get this full certification that at the end allows them to move on from being a helper to being an electrician, or to move on from being an installer to being really like let's say, an HVAC technician. There's certain requirements that they have to fulfill in terms of the curriculum, but also in terms of the apprenticeship. And I think the important part to say here is like the apprenticeship is also integrated into this adult module. So there is some training that's taking part in a classroom, but about 75% of the training is practical. While it's not all set up as an apprenticeship, it is hands-on training. And maybe just a quick word about the OHKW as an initiative. So we were established as an initiative basically by a number of these green tech players that said, hey, we don't have this history of training apprentices. We want a training program that works for all of us. Let's come up with a common standard. And these are some of the partners that we were working with to develop our program and our curriculum. Okay, that's all. I hope that was understandable for everyone, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you very much, Amber. I'm sure that it was very, very interesting, and it was clear also. There might be questions for you in the chat as well, and then we get back to that later on. But thank you very much for touching upon the topic also of apprenticeships for adults, because this has been and will be an important topic also of our work at European level with the European Alliance for Apprenticeships. And also very interesting your slide where you are showing a bit the building blocks of your system and the training that you provide, and how these compare to the traditional vet and apprenticeship, and how these blocks also stack together to go to the qualification. So thank you very much. We will move then to our last panelist for this first part of the exchange of information. So I will give the floor with great pleasure to Tuscany Bell, who will present to us the work that the European Federation of Public Services Union is doing, and she will bring a very interesting perspective, the one of workers. Tuscany, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. As was said, I'm Tuscany Bell, and I'm responsible for the utilities sectors. So that includes energy, waste, and water at the European Federation of Public Service Unions. And I'm very happy to participate in this important, and as Anna said at the beginning, timely webinar, because given the urgent need to reskill, upskill, and train workers to deliver the green transition, I think it's really useful to have these kinds of discussions which bring together different stakeholders so that we can share best approaches, and I've already learned a lot from the previous speakers. But indeed, the transition is already underway, It's already rapidly transforming jobs and occupations. And so it's great to see that at EU level, there is so much recognition of the need to address skills and knowledge gaps in order to carry out the transition in a socially fair way. And we can see this, for example, in a number of the packages that Anna Carrero mentioned in her opening remarks, such as the Net Zero Industry Academies and the Pact for Skills. However, what we see from the unions is that the reality on the ground is very much lagging behind. And I think, unfortunately, up until now, the focus on skills hasn't really delivered what is needed for the energy transition. So maybe just to start by a bit of context and outlining some of the ongoing challenges that we see and that we hear from our national trade union affiliates. Firstly, there are big inequalities when it comes to participation and access to training for workers between the different European countries and regions, but also within countries and between different companies and different sectors as well. So while some sectors have been very active with training and hiring new workers, in other sectors, and specifically here in oil and gas, firms have been a bit more reserved when it comes to hiring new workers because of the uncertainty they face, and have largely been making do with existing workforce or relying more on outside contractors. And this, of course, puts more pressure on the workers, but also the lack of anticipation and mitigation plans in these sectors creates more uncertainty for the workers themselves. So that's one challenge. The second challenge to mention is that whilst the energy sector requires more highly skilled labour than many other industries, the number of people pursuing degrees or certifications which are relevant to these jobs is not keeping pace with the growing demand. And I think it's the International Energy Agency did some research which found that in Europe, STEM degrees, so that's science, technology, engineering, and maths, are not rising fast enough to meet growing demand. And that, in fact, the share of university students graduating with STEM degrees in Europe has dropped in the last decade. And this gap is even more severe when we look at vocational jobs. And this is where many of the biggest skilled labour shortages facing the clean energy industry are today. So that's the second challenge. And the third challenge to mention is the limited availability of adequately skilled workers has intensified competition for staff, both within but also between different energy industries. And also with other sectors, for example, construction of houses and different things like that. So this is especially the case when, for example, electricians, they could work in other sectors without the need for the very specific skills for the energy sector, and they would often get the same salary and same working conditions, or in some cases even better. And the competition is being tackled in different ways. For example, some companies are offering better compensation packages. Other businesses have moved their operations to regions with a bigger pool of skilled labour. But these responses don't really solve the root of the problem, which is a lack of workers with the necessary skills for the energy sector as a whole. So given all the challenges I just mentioned, and in the context of such a fast evolving sector, there is clearly a need for a very holistic and sector-wide approach to work-based learning and quality apprenticeships based on anticipation of skills needs. And this is necessary for both the workers, but also the companies in the energy sector to cope with the energy transition in a socially responsible manner and to support jobs and growth as well. So how should this be approached? And maybe I can just, sorry, I see some comments in the chat about no slides, but I don't have a presentation. So sorry, if anyone wants clarifications afterwards, I'm happy to tell you, but no slides. Yeah, so how should we approach the need for kind of, more holistic skills package for the energy sector? Well, first, we would say there should be a very rigorous mapping of skills, because what we see is that higher education doesn't capture the full skills needs of the energy industry. And actually, for more than half of the 30 million additional clean energy workers that will be needed for the energy transition, VET courses would often be better, so vocational and education and training courses. However, training courses which are tailored to fast-growing clean energy technologies are still not available quite often, and there is a gap between the technical developments in these sectors, which are very fast evolving, and the training that is available. So there's a need to develop more VET courses and also to look at pre-existing certifications to see how they can integrate new clean energy skills. And for this, as I mentioned, there first needs to be a very widespread mapping of the skills. And of course, it was great to see the work of CEDEFOP at the beginning. But we also believe that the mapping and the development of the new courses should be done in cooperation with social partners. So that's with the trade unions and with the employers. But even once the skills needs have been better understood and better integrated into VET courses, another issue, and this is really what we see when we talk with the employers, is that there's a lack of young people choosing to do these courses. And that's partly because of the poor kind of image of vocational training as opposed to university courses, as well as a lack of understanding of the career and salary options that follow. So it's really important to engage with schools and with other education providers to make the courses more attractive, but also very importantly to ensure that the conditions in clean energy sectors and emerging energy sectors are at least as good as those in oil and gas, because actually the renewable sectors, whilst they're equally highly skilled, the conditions are often much worse. They have more precarious contracts, they're less highly paid, they're generally more uncertain. So the jobs need to be attractive in order to attract the people to do the courses. And a final point to make is that it's necessary to ensure the accessibility and affordability of training programs for a just transition. And to do this, there needs to be adequate funding and close coordination between governments, social partners, and education institutions. So I think those are my main points, and maybe I can just summarize by reiterating that apprenticeships can indeed play an important role in the energy transition. But for this, they need to be attractive, they need to lead to good quality jobs, apprentices need to benefit from good working conditions, and also apprenticeships need to be funded and accessible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tuscany, for your intervention and these reminders. Indeed, it is very important to know that, I mean, skills and the efforts that we are doing on skills is work in progress, but these cannot solve all of the challenges. We also need to look at working conditions and career opportunities, and that we are doing also in the framework of the work of the European Commission. Also, because you mentioned something, I would like to remind everybody that there is a Council recommendation of 2018, which is a European framework for quality and effective apprenticeships, which touches with its criteria, touches upon some of the elements that you have mentioned. And indeed, last point from me is that apprenticeships and work-based learning, as you mentioned, can be part of the solution to the challenges that companies find in filling the vacancies, and also it can help to keep up with the pace and the developments of the sector, because if the companies are involved and social partners are involved in the training, then it is much easier to have a relevant and in, let's say, keeping up with the developments of the sector and on the innovations in the sector. Thank you very much, Tuscany, also to you. Now, with all of the speakers, we move into a part of questions and answers. And before we go into the questions in the chat by the participants, maybe it can be also the occasion for the panelists to also exchange among yourselves. If you have questions from someone else that has presented, I would like to give you the floor. Maybe first we can launch, before we go into that, a word cloud, and I will ask the help of Ecoris, because unfortunately I don't think I see the results of the poll. So the question is, what are the key factors for successful apprenticeships in renewable energy? And then I will ask Ecoris to give me the reply when they think it's time, that we have given enough time to the participants.
Okay, Anna.
And in the meantime, I will ask to the panelists to think if they want to ask a question. And so the panelists can raise their hand if they want to ask a question to one of the other panelists. When we thought of this, we were calling it a ping pong exercise. Let's see if who will get the service. So, Ecoris, please let me know if you have the replies.
Yeah, we already received more than 20 replies, Anna. So far, the main inputs regards collaboration, standards, mapping skills, career path, attractive condition, career prospects. These are the main words that have been shared by the audience so far.
That's good, because it gives me also an idea for one question that I wanted to ask to one of the panelists. But first, let me see if someone from the panelists has raised their hands. I don't see it, so maybe I go with a first question for Amber, if I can, just to break the ice. Be ready also, the others. And sorry, Amber, for going for you first, because I heard from the colleagues from Ecoris that one of the topics was also mentioning standards, and I was listening to your presentation and the work that you have been doing. So I wanted to, and you mentioned at the end also common standards. I wanted to check, link to that, to common green standards for training and apprenticeships. Also, what could be done also to ensure the further step up, the certification of the apprenticeships? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I think with the group of people that I'm looking at, these older workers, it has a lot to do with if it's, I would say, a formal apprenticeship. So it's really like a learning, it's a learning apprenticeship, or is it really just a longer onboarding that a company is doing for that new employee? And what I see actually more and more in this small space in Germany, just these adult workers and so on in these two fields of HVAC and solar, is that there's quite this trend actually away from sort of standardized learning programs and more towards just let's get people productive as quickly as possible in those job roles. On the one hand, I find that's like from a business perspective also a good approach. It helps get people much more quickly into those jobs, but it does not really help with the second part that I'm looking at, which is how can we make sure that people progress out of those entry-level jobs? Because it's really just preparing people to do sort of entry-level positions in a specific company. And that's why a lot of our work is also sort of lobbying companies, educating companies about these opportunities that there are for subsidized training or retraining programs for employees. Actually, the way that we've set it up, we worked together with a lot of the green techs on job descriptions, also analyzing job ads from across many different companies, working with the Bertelsmann Stiftung, which is like a think tank here on how to best match it to the education system. And it really is set up in a way that if a company hires someone, they can send them in this retraining program for free. So the program is paid, but also the staff costs are paid. So there's actually a good commitment from the state to support this, but it does take a lot of communication to let everyone know that this is available, and also to, I think, also encourage companies and actors like from the business space to think in longer term. So if they send someone in this training program, yes, it will take 3 months, but they have a higher chance to have someone down the road who can do more regulated tasks, or who has the chance to move up in their company.
Thank you very much. You were mentioning also the importance of these, the role of the companies and how they need also to be aware of certain elements. And these, maybe I would like to take the opportunity to ask a question also to Shima before we move also for the questions from the chat. Shima, in your H2 COVID project, how are you engaging with the industry, with the companies and the labor market actors and the social partners also, in case you have contact? Thank you.
Yeah, good question. As I said, we have regional centers of vocational excellences. So each region has its own cove. And so each region has their own institutional partner and private sector. So they collaborate together. And so the private sector says what kind of skills are needed for the hydrogen economy. And then the institution try to adapt to the needs of the business sector in the region. So it's a kind of like a vertical model. So we go to 5 different regions and then build it up to the European level. Yeah, if I answer it correctly, what you asked. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe I turn also to Tuscany, because you were bringing the role of the social partners and mentioning also their importance. So I wanted to ask you also, compared to what Amber and Shima has mentioned about companies, if you would have something to add, or if you want to add something on the role of the social partners. Thank you.
I can maybe just give a few words on what the social partners are doing currently, the work that we have on kind of developing apprenticeships and training curricula. So at EU level, we currently have an ongoing project with our social partners, Eurelectric. So it's the Social Dialogue Committee in the electricity sector, EPSU Industrial, which is another European Trade Union Federation, and Eurelectric. And we're currently carrying out a project which will kind of collect best practices on 3 different areas related to workforce challenges in the electricity sector. So the first is specifically on education and training. So we're looking for best practice examples of where social partners have developed jointly either kind of apprenticeships or curricula for schools. The second part of it is to look at best practices for gender equality, because I think that's something that hasn't been mentioned so much, but that's a huge, I would say, hindering factor for the workforce in the energy sector, is that it's very kind of, or the perception of the energy sector anyway is that it's male, it's kind of male dominated. And so we're really trying to challenge this perception of the energy sector to attract more women into apprenticeships and training to join the energy sector. And then the third part of that project is looking at job-to-job transitions. So that's existing workforces and how to transition those workers from kind of sectors that are being phased out, like in oil and gas, and how to transition them into clean energy sectors. So on that, we're collecting best practice examples, and we've already started finding some good ones. And then maybe at national level, what do we see our affiliates doing? One thing that we're really encouraging them to do anyway is to participate or to have an active role in developing just transition plans as part of the just transition mechanism, which is an EU mechanism to ensure a just transition. So Unfortunately, there was less participation of social partners in the development of the Just Transition plans that we would have liked, but we're hoping now in the implementation of those plans there can be more kind of cooperation of social partners.
Thank you very, very much. Indeed, as you might have noticed, and also the participants, our President von der Leyen has put a lot of accents in the future cooperation with social partners. So I think you can expect quite some developments also in that field. And for the fact that we have touched upon very much on the side of the labor market, maybe allow me a last question from the side of to look at the perspective of the training providers. Kasia, one question for you. If you could give us a bit more information about the apprenticeship program that you have explained, and how you designed it, how you successfully, I would say, put it together. What have been the triggers, the resources that have allowed you to do so that this can inspire others that are with us today? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. Well, first of all, how it all started. So over 10 years ago, KTB recognized the shortage of training and education opportunities in this industry, so in the area of wind turbine maintenance. And in consultation with a number of employers and industry representatives, we developed a wind turbine maintenance technician traineeship. And we run that traineeship since 2014. And it was the traineeship had a very strong post-qualification placement rates. And feedback from our employers highlighted that on entering work placements, these trainees, they still require specific skills training in order to implement employer-specific work procedures, safe systems of work, and standard operating procedures. So the entry requirements for the traineeship required learners to hold one of 3 qualifications. So it was either advanced craft certificate in electrical, mechanical automation, or motor mechanics. And these entry requirements, they limited the pool of learners who could apply for the traineeship. So the wind turbine maintenance technician apprenticeship has created a pathway into this industry for school leavers and those people who have no prior qualification. And of course, it's the fundamental part of the whole development process was the collaboration with the industry. We wouldn't have been able to develop anything without their help and support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think now I would like to take some time for the questions that have been put in the chat for you. I will take only very, very few of those, I think, because there is much, but I invite you also, our panelists and also Adam, to reply still in the chat if there is something more. I just allow me to go quickly through the questions. So because I saw something for Shima from Isman bin Aznat. And Shima, the participant is asking the type of learners profiles that the students have, if you can give more information on the let's say, the training that you are providing within the COVE project. Thank you.
Yeah, as everybody knows, it is like a center of vocational excellences, and it's about like VET education. And we are focusing on VET students, EQF level 4 and 5, and HVET students, that is like EQF level 6 to 8. We also include lifelong learners and also workforce upskilling, reskilling. And we have like an inclusion focus also. So inclusivity is very important for us. So for the immigrants, people with immigrant background, or people out of the working environment and who wants to enter. And we also try to include them in the project. So some people like coming with no backgrounds, but they really want to enter to hydrogen market. So we focus on them also.
Thank you very much. I think I had, but colleagues interrupt me if the question has been replied already. So Shima, also for you, a list of most important jobs and skills required from the hydrogen sector. So you gave us some hints on technicians or type of profiles that are interesting, and they are asking if there is a more elaborated version that would be, or more detailed version that would be available in a document.
Yeah, it will. It's one of the deliverables that we're supposed to deliver to you. And so we are working on it. It's going to be ready in March 2025. So the skills card and the knowledge base are two important deliverables that we're working on. So, and it's going to be public because it's a public document. And I encourage everyone to visit our website. We are also having like newsletters that you can just register, and then you will get the newsletter in our website. Yeah.
Now I will ask the help from my colleagues from ECORIS. Just take the floor, open your microphone if you see some other questions that I might have missed that have not been replied. So that will allow us only a couple of, maybe 1 minute or so before we move into concluding the session. But I would like to be sure, because I've seen a lot of movement in the chat, to be sure that I don't miss
Thank you, Anna. No, the main question have been addressed, and also our speakers and Adam also addressed the question directly in the chat. So yeah, we can finalize our webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to you and to the colleagues in from ECORIS. I would like then to come to the end of the session. It was very, very interesting, the information that you have shared from us on the Commission side. We have been listening together with my colleagues very, very carefully, because it gave us a lot of information and ideas for future developments that we can do in the European Alliance for Apprenticeships. So it was very interesting to see also how apprenticeships can be multi-purpose, because we have heard they can be for young people, they can be for adults, they can help in a traditional curriculum setting, but they can also be more in a modular format, in a shorter version. So I think also from all the details that the speakers have given, starting from the skills intelligence and the trends that we see on the online job vacancies and the work that the panelists are doing, I hope that you have got a lot of inspiration. For me, there are a few last elements that I would like to share with you. So if you find this information that we have shared today interesting, and you are not yet a member of the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, please join us, join this network. So we will share with the participants some more information on how it works to become members, what are the advantages, and the membership is fully for free. So please take it into consideration, because it will open up a lot of also networking opportunity and knowledge sharing, as you have seen today. In the Alliance, we have 41 member countries, so it goes very much beyond the European Union. We also work with the European Training Foundation, with the partner countries, the neighboring countries of the EU, so there is something interesting for everybody. Few last announcements that I would like to do. If we go to the next slide, what is coming next in the European Alliance for Apprenticeship? Well, on the 4th of December, we will have a new webinar which will cover this time the digital skills in apprenticeships, and this will be the opportunity for us to launch a toolkit that we have developed during this year that will bring very concrete examples, checklists, and information on digital skills in apprenticeships. So join us for that. Something that is also coming up soon is a fact sheet produced by the European Alliance for Apprenticeship on the support that can be given to small and medium-sized enterprises. We know that in our European economy, the majority are very, very small companies, even micro companies. So we are looking into how to help them to develop apprenticeships. And in this fact sheet, we will have one example from Germany, which is very, very interesting, and that is funded under the European Social Fund Plus. So it's also for me an occasion to remind you that we have spoken about Erasmus Plus with the Centers of Vocational Excellence, but there are other funding opportunities available, and the European Social Fund is one of those and very important. So watch out also on our side when soon we will publish the fact sheet on support for SMEs. My last point is to thank very, very much the panelists, the speakers today. It has been a pleasure to have you with us. I hope that for some of you this was a nice discovery, and that you will continue to be with us in the work that we do under the Alliance in the future. Thank you very much also to my colleagues in DG Employment who have helped to prepare the webinar, and also very much to Pietro and the other colleagues in Ecoris, our consultant, for all the support that they have given to us. I wish you all a good continuation of your work and a good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.